Hey, folks. So it's Monday morning, and it's a big week at City Council. And I have a really busy work week ahead of me, and I couldn't be arsed to write up like a blog post or a thread or something today to talk about what's going on at council this week. So I decided to do another one of these like off schedule YouTube lives. Also, I need to make a coffee. So I thought you could join me for a coffee while I take a look at the council agenda for Wednesday's meeting. So there are two meetings this week of City Council. One is going to deal with budget preview, and one is going to be like the regular meeting. And spoilers, the thing that I wanted to talk about this morning is there's a new Brandt deal. This whole, we're going to take over the real campus. The deal seems to be changing. So, and I don't know what to make of it. And so that's what I wanted to talk about this morning. But first off, yeah. So I don't know if you remember, but there was like a meeting last month where they were supposed to talk about the operating budget and sort of get council up to speed on the operating budget for 2027. And so, yeah, like basically budget is eating council's head. We're going to be having budget meetings, I think 5 budget meetings before we get to like a draft budget, and then there's going to be budget meetings. So budgets used to be much faster. There, you used to get like a report, I think it was a month before the budget was discussed, and then the budget was discussed on a day, and that was it. And counselors would complain that, oh my God, sometimes those meetings go really late at night. Now they go 5 days. They go a full week for their budget deliberations, 3 to 5 days, right? So, but they book a whole week because they know these goobers can drag any meeting out for as long as you book. They can have meeting, no matter how important or how trivial a subject is. Yeah. And so now they're booking even more meetings. They're booking 5 more meetings. Now the budget is going to be 10 meetings long. I don't know, man. Now, on the one hand, that's a lot of budget talk. And councils and administrations have other things to do with their day, like actually, implement the budget. And if they're always planning a budget, because like remember, like a budget isn't like doing anything. A budget is like telling a story about how you want to spend your money in the following year. Spinning a yarn about what you're going to do with your money. How you actually spend your money is another thing entirely, right? Like that's a whole other report. Anyways, so we're going to get 10 meetings on the budget this year. Now, at the same time, when you think back to, say, like the days of Mayor Pat Fiacco, when he passed many 0% mill rate increases, and then a bunch of mill rate increases that were so small, they may as well have been 0%. Maybe we should have had longer budget meetings, is what I'm saying. Anyways, but that's not the real meat of what I want to talk about. So yes, Tuesday, starting at 1, let's talk budget all day long. There'll be the first part will be the operating report that was supposed to happen last month, but there were technical difficulties, so they couldn't run the meeting. And the second part, I think it's going to be on, like service levels or something. I don't know. That one I'm going into cold if I watch it at all. This is a really busy work week for me, right? Like I shouldn't be wasting my time on this right now. I'm not wasting my time. I'm making coffee. All right. Then after that, we have a regular council meeting on Wednesday. And it's a nice short one. A lot of the stuff is in blue, which means that it's on the consent agenda. Hang on a second. I got to go put the water on for coffee. Sorry about that. Okay. Coffee is now ground, and I did do it on one this time, so it's the finest grind that I am capable to make with my hand grinder. And here's the Cafe La Robot. And the equipment I need. I'm sorry, I've got like a bit of a allergy thing going on today, and I don't know why. I've been in Alberta for a while. I guess I got back middle last week, and yeah. So Cafe La Robot. Okay, what I really want to talk about is this report here. I'm going to call it up on screen. Share screen. Oh, not that one. This one. Wow. Here we go. Right on. Okay, so what we've got here is the real Brandt proposal amendment. And the reason I want to talk about this today is not that I have some like great insight or wisdom into this. Have you read There Is No Anti-Memetics Division? You should read it, because this report is an anti-meme. I tried to read this many times and I could not follow what was going on. It was like with every word that I read, it created so many questions in my brain that it ate my ability to comprehend what was in this report. This is one of the most convoluted things I've read, I think. I don't know. I can't even tell you. That's why I think it's an anti-meme, because as I read this and I read this and I read this, I felt like I was getting farther away from knowing what it was. And then all of a sudden, I just didn't want to write about it or think about it or do anything with it at all, like an anti-meme. So anyways, this report should be locked up in a secure facility underground because it eats brains. Anyways, I've been able to tease out some meaning, and I've been able, like, through the application of coffee, I've been able to like secure some like thoughts in my head about what is going on here. But all the thoughts that I have are questions. And as a result, I will be very interested with what's going on Wednesday. And I think you should be interested too, because this affects you. In fact, this report is contemplating changes that change things for so long that they probably affect you more than they affect me, right? Because I'm old. Anyways, so as you know, the city has sold a big chunk of real to Brandt corporations, and they're putting together some kind of like Brandt entertainment arm of their corporation. So to this simple dude. And you should be reading this while I'm talking, and you can see how it just eats your brain as you try to read it. Yeah, so the parts that they're buying are like the hockey arena, the Brandt Center, and space for that distillery. Those are the key things. There's a few other buildings. It's a big sizable chunk. Oh, and the parking lots, buying that. But there were a bunch of excluded assets. Now, here's the deal. The excluded assets were the ones that the city has a positive EBITDA on there. And they're also the things that, I'll get into that in a second, where community stuff goes on. So there was the Cooperator Center, the Affinity Plex, and Confederation Park, and also Mosaic Stadium. Let me check something. So Cooperator Center, that's the hockey arenas, right? Yeah, hockey arenas. And the Affinity Plex is soccer, right? Yeah, indoor soccer. Okay, I get those two mixed up. Okay, so those were excluded assets. Brandt is not buying them, and that is not going to change. But what's going on here is that, oh God, Brandt is going to run them and manage them if this is approved. And I don't know what that means. And they're going to run them for up to, for initial terms of 10 years, they're going to run these things. And for up to 2 consecutive 5-year terms, they're going to run them for. Which I'm like, that's 20 years. That's a long time. And I don't know what this means. Right? So, and apparently, like, this is the earlier version. This would have been the version that council got to look at first. And it actually puts dates on it. So it says that the terms would be till December 31st, 2031, but it would be 3 consecutive 5-year terms. So longer, right? Am I right? No, shorter, about the same. Anyways, that was the original one. It was more time limited. Well, like it had like the actual times defined. Now it's just like term periods, probably for ease of reading. Not that it helped me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like still in like summer brain. And that's why I can't read this and make sense of it. So yeah, as far as I can tell, what's going on here is that Brandt is going to proposed assignment of the interim operation and maintenance of Mosaic Stadium, Cooperative Center, Affinity Plex, and Confederation Park to Brandt Properties Limited. Oh, hey, that's my water. Let me go get that. I need a coffee mug too. Okay. All right. So the first question that I have to ask is, what interim period? I didn't remember an interim period in the terms of reference of that report we all got back in April. Don't remember that. Did this report eat my brain? Did it eat all memory of this interim period? All right, and here I am plunging my espresso into my coffee mug. I'm back to using the, God, what am I using? Caliber. I'm using the Caliber espresso beans. They're excellent. Caliber's local too. Makes a very good coffee bean. But for some reason, it's harder to push the coffee through ground up Caliber beans than it is Fratello beans. I don't know why that is. I use the same setting. All right. Yeah, so you've got this interim period, and I'm like, I do not remember there being any mention of an interim period. And this report even goes on to say the council already approved Brandt Industries or Properties or whatever. There we go. Operating the excluded assets, those community facilities. The council had already like approved this back in April. The council had already approved this, but just for an undefined like interim period. And I'm like, again, I don't remember any mention of this interim period. So I went looking for it and I couldn't find it at first. It was really hard to find. So like, why is something that's like, this crucial, this like entire idea here hinges on this notion of an interim period. So like, why can't I find it? Why is it so hard to find? I ultimately did find a reference to it in the April 29th Executive Committee report. That was the first time we all got to see this idea of like selling off this asset to, there we are. Okay. Here. This is the only reference that I found that seems to apply, that seems to, remark on the thing that we're talking about today. So Brandt will temporarily assume Real's obligations under the campus master lease to ensure uninterrupted operation of the excluded assets during the transition period. Now, I didn't reread this entire report. I tried to, but it's a long report. Oh, that's good. That is really good coffee. Holy crap. I nailed it today. Yeah. So this is here. So I found something. This confirms that administration. Well, like I'm not saying that administration is lying, right? Like I'm not saying that it's not in there. I'm saying I can't find it, right? And so I searched and I searched keywords and I skimmed it and I had like a paper copy and I skimmed that and I circled this in my paper copy. And you guys should totally see it. I don't often print out reports, and this one was actually given to me by the city administration very kindly. So I actually have a paper report, and it's freaking just gibbled because I've been through this thing so many freaking times, and you can see like all the friggin' notes that I wrote on it while I was reading this thing. So yeah, that has been a well-loved print report. So that's where I went to first, as I went through it and I like a page through it and I tried to find any reference to this, and I finally found this. But clearly there has to be more in there, or there's some private document that was shared with council that we didn't get. It was shared with council at a private session that we didn't see. But like I'm saying, it's probably in there. I just can't find it. I don't know why it's a little bit more prominent if it's so dang important. But there you go. So yeah, I look forward to on Wednesday administration giving me like page number and a line that I can go to. Yeah. So yeah, there's more. Let's go over here to the discussion. Okay, yeah. Now into more on Wednesday's report, we have this. And it talks about this whole idea. So we've got the term sheet allows for the current campus master lease between the city and Real to be amended and assigned to Brandt on an interim basis until the earlier of the completion of subdivision estimated at December 31st, 2027, or such earlier date as may be determined by the city. Okay, when I looked at that reference in the original document that said that, Brandt can operate them for an interim period, the idea of interim to me says like 6 months kind of thing, right? Right? Like just a few months, like maybe 8 or 9 months. And that this seems to like say, yeah, that's what we were thinking too, is 6 months or whatever. But meanwhile, on the reasons why Brandt is deciding that they need to operate the excluded assets, our community facilities, for longer, Brandt determined that separating management of the Cooperator Center, Affinityplex, Confederation Park, and Mosaic Stadium, collectively the excluded assets, is expected to result in less efficient operations on the Real campus. For whom? Simple. Additionally, considerations related to the union's successor rights and the city's capacity to assume operations in the near term warrant reconsideration of the timeline for transitioning operation of the excluded assets to the city. Who's speaking there in the second part of that sentence? Is that like Brandt says, "Oh yeah, no, this like does admin really believe that like extending the transition period to 20 years is a smart idea?" Or is Brandt saying we think it's a good idea? And also, okay, and what are the implications of that, the financial impact? There is sufficient financial data to accurately forecast whether the cost to operate and maintain the excluded assets would differ materially if they were operated by the city, Brandt, or another third-party contractor. So we just don't know. So, okay. Brandt has looked at the situation and said, yeah, we can't do this. This doesn't work for us if we can't operate the excluded assets, if we can't operate your community facilities for you and maintain them. And the city is saying, that makes sense. And we don't know how much it's going to cost us if we do this. We don't know the financial impacts, but we're going to recommend that you do it. I don't know. Yeah, okay, so here's more on Brandt's reasoning. Brandt advised administration that maintaining operation and maintenance services to the excluded assets is essential to the economic viability and overall function of the campus, Due to the integrated nature of the facilities, reducing the area of the campus under management would decrease the efficiency of Brandt's business operations and may result in a duplication of positions required to operate the campus. My guy, if you're not operating the excluded assets, why does it matter if the city has their own people operating them? Like, it's not an inefficiency for either party in this situation to have like two teams operating Brandt stuff and operating the city stuff. So I don't know why we need to hear that. Anyways. Yeah, and then here's that thing I said before. The concept of Brandt operating the excluded assets was previously approved by council. However, the approval was limited to December 31st, 2027. Anyways. Okay. So to tease this much meaning out of these reports took me a very long time. I'm not sure why, because now I'm looking at it and it all seems fairly clear. I think it's because I've pinned the meaning down with highlighting and coffee. Seriously, guys, you were missing out. This is a really good coffee. All right. So I have questions. What does all this even mean? Like, what is going on here? Like, what does operating and maintenance mean? Now, that doesn't sound like it should be a complicated question, but here is where it immediately complicates my brain. So the indoor soccer and the indoor hockey facilities, these are used by the community. These are used by little kids to learn how to play soccer, to have some fun, to learn how to play hockey. These are community facilities. They have rec leagues that go into these spaces. These are some of the best used recreation facilities in the city, frankly. And as a consequence, these have positive EBITDA. These are the only things. The community uses at Real are the only things that have positive EBITDA, and that's like earnings before like stuff, and like earnings before. I'm sorry, I have to look it up. EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. It is a way to measure profitability. Sorry, and speaking of an anti-meme, I cannot keep the meaning of that acronym in my head, even though I've been hearing it for like 2 decades. Basically, it's how much money you make when you don't include things like, the roof needs to be fixed or your assets are depreciating. It's like how much money is coming in. It's like operations, I guess. Not an expert. But, this was pointed to in the reports that we have on Real as like evidence that the things that we're losing money on are big city events that we hold at, say, like Mosaic Stadium. These don't make us any money. In fact, those lose us money. Like a lot of the big stuff, the big marquee stuff that back in the day Regina tourism was all like obsessive about. The stuff that makes it onto billboards is not what we're making money off of at Real. It's the community sports stuff that's actually there's tons of kids who are going in, and every one of those kids' families pays some money to use those facilities. There's rec leagues. Everybody in those rec leagues pays some money into the city to use those facilities, and it's not an insubstantial sum of money. So there's this constant, reliable churn of money coming through Real, and it only comes from the community stuff. The other thing with the events and stuff, the riders, any of those exhibition games, crap like that, those are just concerts, like frigging concerts. Yeah, you're getting the Foo Fighters this year, but how many other big events at the new Mosaic Stadium can you remember coming through the city? It's not that many. That's a very unreliable income stream. The community sports is very reliable, and there's actually a lot of money, so it's good for us. So why are we giving it away? Why is this a good idea to give the operations and maintenance of those facilities that the city actually is like, profiting from as far as it can. Why are we giving that over to Brandt? Also, like, does this even work? And that's like my bigger question. Excuse me. Is Brandt going to be taking over the scheduling of these facilities? Or in operations and maintenance, does this just mean, they're going to make sure that the ice is maintained and they're going to make sure that the lights all work? Is that it? If that's the case, that is arguably more fine. My concern more is who's going to be scheduling access to these buildings. Is there going to be a case where the Regina Football League, and football with a U, so Football FC Regina or whatever it's called, Regina FC, sorry. I'm not a follower, but they're like isn't there like a football team here that, like, are they gonna use this space? I don't know. Yeah, like, just basically who's gonna be using the facilities, who's gonna be controlling access to the facilities? Will it still be the city, or will it be Brandt? If it's Brandt, if operations means that they're gonna be handling the scheduling of these facilities, what happens to central scheduling? Central scheduling, with a capital C and a capital S, is a city branch that handles the scheduling of all city stuff. If you wanna, like, book a thing, like, say you wanna book a community center's gym, or you wanna book the Affinity Plex, you go call up central scheduling. Some very nice people will let you know what's available, how much it costs, and try and fit you in. They're great. They do a very good job. Are they gonna continue doing this work for the stuff on the real campus? I think this is important, because I think a large chunk of central scheduling's work, like, not all of it, but a large chunk would be booking those facilities, the Affinity Plex and the Cooperator Center. If Brandt is taking this over, what happens to the people who've been booking those facilities for however long? And if the city continues to book these places, to schedule these places, what is the upside exactly for Brandt in all this? I don't know. Like, and also, if Brandt is scheduling these things, if Brandt is operating these things, do they get the money from all the community sports that book these spaces? Is that the deal? That this thing that we actually, like, have positive EBITDA on. So one thing, the one business item at Real that you can rely on and actually makes money. Is Brandt now gonna be collecting that money? Are they going to be now the beneficiaries of that positive EBITDA that we have, that's being paid into Brandt, sorry, into Real? It's not paid into Brandt yet. That's being paid into Real by us, right? Like, this is like, these are user fees. So there are like two ways the city makes money: taxes, user fees. Well, there's grants too, but that's much smaller. We contribute a lot more to the city than anybody else. And one of the ways we contribute is through user fees to use things like the Cooperator Center and the Affinity Plex. So, who gets the money from our community sports, right? So, like, is this just another transfer of, like, in this case, user fees, not taxes, but is this just another transfer of city money to a private entity? I don't know. If it's in this report, and it could be, I'm a shitty reader. I miss stuff all the times. These reports are long, and like I said, this report is an anti-meme. It eats your understanding as you read it. So if I've missed something in here, it's not my fault. It's because administration put out an anti-meme to try and keep that in mind. So that's my excuse. Yeah, so it could be in here. I don't know that it is, but I'm sure, like, one of the things that I do like about the whole, like, council process is that I can read a report like this. I can go through it and I can, like, highlight stuff. I do this all the time and go, I haven't got a clue what's going on in here because I'm a Dumbo. And then I tune in to city council, and smart people explain stuff. Smart people in administration explain what's in the report to me. So I'm looking forward to Wednesday is what I'm saying, because I have big questions about this report. Because the other thing is like what I said, what is Brandt getting out of this? There's this thing that we just read a few seconds ago in this report about how they looked at everything and they said, yeah, this doesn't work for us. If we want to, make money off of the real campus, it's not going to be enough for us to just have your performance space, your brand center, and a distillery to do stuff in. We have to have the whole thing. We have to manage and operate the whole thing. Oh, yeah, they're also getting the trade center. Don't forget that. They're leasing the International Trade Center. So we have to get everything. We have to operate the whole kit and caboodle. That's the only way it works for us. Why? Why? What do they get out of this? Why does Brandt want to get into maintaining a indoor soccer facility and an indoor hockey facility that's, in large part used by children? What is Brandt doing? Why are they doing this? It makes no sense to me. Unless there's something else going on. But again, maybe Brandt will show up on Wednesday and plead their case and explain what's going on, and I'll go, oh, it makes perfect sense now. I don't know. But as it stands right now, I have huge freaking questions about this. Yeah. So basically, in short, my question is why? Why do we need this? Why does anybody think this is a good idea? How is this going to work? Who's going to benefit? Are we getting ripped off? The financial section doesn't tell us if we're getting ripped off or not. Ugh. And as I noted, this is for an initial term of 10 years and then up to 10 more years, right? 2 more terms of 5 years after that. That's 20 years. For those of us who are old, that could be forever, right? Like this is effectively a permanent change. Also, once you make a change like this for 20 years, like how many people within the city of Regina, well, within the real operation, which is a wholly owned city corporation, but who within the orbit of the city and its city-owned corporations is going to have any kind of knowledge base to step in after the 20 years and take over the maintenance and operations of this facility. If we haven't been like on top of the maintenance and operations of these facilities for 20 years, how are we going to know what we're stepping into when Brandt is done with it? So yeah, this to me just it says 20 years, but 20 years feels permanent to me, man. And yeah, it could just be because I feel the cold specter of death's finger tapping me on the shoulder every day now. That's grim. It's because fall is coming. Yeah. And also, why did council do this? Sorry. Why did council do this in private session? So they did this in private session last week. They considered all of this and they decided, it looks like they adjusted the language so that instead of it having like dates, it had like time periods. Why did they do it in private session? Because now what we have is a situation where a report like this comes out and a dumbo like me gets it and I read it. And I'm like, I don't get it. I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you saying this is a good thing? And like, how will this work? Right? Like, what are the logistics of implementing this? I don't get it. And these are community freaking facilities. This is, if I had a kid who was interested in soccer and a kid who's interested in hockey, and I'm lucky that I don't. If I had a kid who was in those sports and who used those facilities, I would be like, what is this going to mean to me? Right? Like, where are my fees going to be going? Are they going to be going to the city to support recreation writ large, or are they going to be going to a private corporation? If I, have gotten used to having access to these facilities for my kids' sports throughout the seasons, whenever they are, will that be changed? Will that be altered? Will I have less access? Or will this be great and will it give me more access to these facilities? I don't know. This report doesn't tell me. So this all happened in private session. I imagine a lot of these questions were asked and answered there. They don't appear in this report as far as I can tell. And as a consequence, it goes from a private session of executive to a council meeting. And that is where this report is, presumably, unless it gets referred, this is where this report is going to get approved, right? And that means if you go into this with a whole bunch of questions like I have, and you need to like some reassurance that this is not going to, rake us over the coals, screw us over. If you have legitimate, and I think there's legitimate reasons to be suspicious of this report, you don't get a chance to like hear a Q&A between council and administration that goes through this report and dispels its anti-mimetic properties that make this frickin' thing so frickin' hard for me to understand for some frickin' reason. You don't get that process of like, council going, I don't get it either. And administration saying, hey, cool down, settle down, dude. It's not that bad. This is all very administrative and takes you through and you go, oh, cool. Or administration has answers that aren't the greatest, or it becomes clear that, maybe some of the details haven't been worked out. We don't get that at an executive committee meeting, which then gives you at least a week to like, ruminate on things, administration to come back with some like better answers, or council to come back and say, okay, no, we're good with it, or council to say, no, we really need this referred, and people to come to council to express their displeasure or their pleasure with this report. Because this all kind of got dropped on us on Friday last week. And I didn't look at it. Somebody sent me a message and said, hey, Paul, why aren't you like beacon off on Blue Sky about this report? This seems like your jam. And I was like, because I'm effectively still on holidays and I'd like to stay there. Thank you very much. But then I cracked the report and I was like, I don't get it. So yeah, what I'm saying is dropped it on us on Friday. It is now 10:29 on a Monday, and you have like an hour and a half to read this report now, decide if you have a position on it, and get something into administration to say, I will be showing up on Wednesday to express myself on this report. That's all you got, right? And then on Wednesday, this report could be the fate of this report. Effectively, the fate of your community facilities will be decided on Wednesday. Well, it could be. The other alternative is that there could be some folk in council who are like, yeah, no, I need more time, and this will get referred to a future council meeting. And I hope that's what happens. There was an attempt to do that with the original Brandt and Real deal, though, right? Like I think it was Councillor Zakidniak who said, yeah, I need more time with this. This is a mammoth change. We've only had like, council was looking at it behind closed doors for longer than you and I were. And yeah, it was still like a very short turnaround when you compare it, when you like hold it up to the mamosity of this change that is being contemplated. And so some councillors were like, hey, we need a little bit more time to like take this to our communities, make sure that they're comfortable with it. We need more time for ourselves to make sure that we've like thought through in our own heads the implications of this and what it's going to mean to us as a council. So yeah, that happened with that report. But basically what we were told back then, excuse me, is that no, you don't have that time. You don't have that luxury because Brandt wanted the deal to go ahead. Brandt decided that they needed an answer right away. Administration basically said, look, you can ask us to go back and give you another report, but we're not going to give you a different recommendation. So they made a decision right there. So I don't know if that's what's going to happen again. Like it looks very much like this was an ultimatum that came from Brandt, where Brandt said, look, we've looked at your facility. There's issues. We want operation and maintenance of this whole thing, or else we're walking away. We're packing our bags. We're gathering up our toys and going home. And the city had to like make a concession. And so I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if we're going to have the option, if we want to keep a deal at all for the real campus, of getting some of these questions answered. beyond getting them answered in a council meeting and having the council meeting make the decision. This is one of the breakdowns in the whole process, where if something is dealt with in private session of executive, the public doesn't get a ton of time to friggin' go over it and participate, because the whole thing with council, right, is it's public engagement, right? Like it's the chance for the public to get engaged. All these like things like public engagement sessions and stuff that administration runs for communities before council meetings, like that's like I don't think there's a legislative requirement for a lot of that stuff. That's something that administration does often to just convince y'all that what they have planned to do is a good idea. Although other times, I don't know, did you guys go to I Love Regina Day? There was a booth there talking about like roadways and transit, like walking and cycling and taking the bus and driving a car. And yeah, this was just an exploratory session. So they didn't have like a plan that they were laying out. They're just like, what do you think? And like, what would make your life more better when transporting yourselves about the city? Go to the beheard.regina.ca. No, beheard.regina.ca page. There is a page there where you can like type in what you think about transportation in Regina. Give them some suggestions for things they can do to make getting around the city more better. That was a big digression. Yeah, so Wednesday is a big day. If you're watching this right now at 10:33, God, I keep talking, and you are alarmed by what you've seen in this report, or you're comforted, you might want to send your counselor a message, or you might want to sign up to talk, because I suspect there will not be many people speaking on this. If there's anybody speaking on this, it will be somebody within the Brandt orbit who's there, or Real, somebody from Real, which, gosh, that seems awfully Brandt captured these days, don't you think? I don't know if that's true. But anyways, like I say, I will concede the point that I probably have not read any of these reports nearly closely enough. I will concede I am not an expert on this deal. I will only say that I've read this, and thank you to the fellow who like reached out and said, hey, you should read this before Wednesday, because I was planning to read it like Tuesday night. Yeah, I will only say that after reading this, I have a ton of questions. And maybe all the answers are in there and I just missed them. Maybe the answers are incredibly obvious and I should have spotted them and I should have figured this all out on my own, but I didn't. And I want more answers. And I would like some more comfort from council on Wednesday. So that's what we're waiting for. Hey, okay, so I've talked your friggin' ear off. 43 frickin' minutes of me yammering on about this stuff. Better you than my family, because frankly, I started talking to my family about this yesterday, and they got pretty frickin' fed up with me, frankly. But that's okay, because that's been going on for a long time. You probably want to know, hey man, there's got to be something else going on in council on Wednesday. There is. Let's see what we got here. Where are we? No. Oh my God. Am I even in the right report? I am. Where's the freaking summary of Wednesday's meeting? Why can't I find it? Okay. Oh God. Okay. Other things that you should know about coming on Wednesday. I'll try to make this quick. We have, like, off the top, right off the hop of the meeting, we're going to be discussing the project service prioritization motion from Ward 2's Councillor George Sickleys. I friggin' hate this motion. He actually had 5 motions, right? He brought 5 frickin' motions to council. I thought, and I read them. I spent a bunch of time going over them, and I basically dismissed all of them as kind of like a waste of our time. But I spent a bunch of time on them, and then he pulled 4 of them off. Like, they just turfed them. And so all of my time was wasted for those 4 motions. And when a councillor brings a motion, right, and like moves it as a notice of motion, your administration, the people that you're paying to run your city, a bunch of people like muster up and activate their administration skills to like read those motions and prepare a bunch of material to deal with those motions, to bring to council, to explain how they will implement the motion, or provide some greater context on that, the stuff that's contemplated in the motion. So hours were spent on those 4 motions that George Sickley's put forward as a notice of motion and then just yanked back. All gone. You wonder why cities are inefficient? There you go. So anyways, project service prioritization motion, blah, 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 blah. Therefore, be it resolved, prepare a report and a work plan for proposed service prioritization report that includes detailed scope, methodology, timeline, and work plan for completion of the service prioritization report. Oh yeah, this doesn't sound like this sounds like something you can knock off in a weekend. What's going to be in this report? Classification of all city services into recommended defined categories, for example, core/mandatory, discretionary, Oxford, and hybrid, with 2026 cost breakdowns. Options and recommendations for a 3 to 5 year service excellence and sustainability plan. You got to look at when anybody's throwing the word excellence into something, freaking keep an eye on that guy. That could reduce annual spending overall by optimizing discretionary services while protecting and strengthening core services. So there's more talk. So basically what he wants done here is he wants like the junior reader version of the budget, right? Like he wants the budget dumbed down into like 3 columns: core services, hybrid services, discretionary services. Okay. First of all, we've been over this before. I think even in one of these live things, administration pretty much already does this. Okay. For the budget, they let you know what stuff they can't get rid of and what stuff that, usually it's the stuff they're cutting is the discretionary stuff they think they can get away with getting rid of. They're cutting it because administration is just as concerned about the property tax rate as council is. Believe it or not, they don't want the property tax rate to go up either. They live here, right? You know that most of the people in city administration live in the city of Regina and pay property taxes here. So anyways, yeah, this basically dumbs things down. And the thing that frustrates me here is that what Councillor George Sickley's, I'm fairly confident that what Councillor George Sickley's considers core, discretionary, and hybrid, radically different from what I consider core, discretionary, and hybrid. So who gets to decide where these things, what slots these things get put in? Because my concern is once you start putting a table in front of a city council that says, here's a column of things that are discretionary, they're going to go down that list with a big frickin' red pen and crossing things off that they think they can get past their voters in their ward. That they're, stuff that they like, public art, like grants for community events, things that, many councillors have problems with. Hey, bike lanes. Where do you think bike lanes should fall? Core or discretionary? I think that's a core service of a city. Obviously, there are many people at the city within administration and without and on council who see bike lanes as one of those nice to haves, one of those discretionary things. I think the city's responsibility is for everybody to get around and to get around in the most efficient way. And blah, blah, blah. I could argue for hours about why bike lanes are efficient, safe, important, necessary, core services of the city. Buses. We've seen buses get cut from the budget for decades now. A lot of councillors see those as discretionary funds and not core. So I do not trust any attempt, especially by, one of the grumpy Facebook grandpas on council, to start defining what's core and what's discretionary. I do not trust an effort like that. This report does ask for a full public consultation on this. This is a mammoth motion. Well, not mammoth, not Titanic, giant. It's a giant motion. It's a lot of work, is what I'm saying. And it's this is a discussion that I think council should have. Is what are for us as a council, what are we going to focus our attentions on? What jobs should a city do? But it's a big question, and it's not the kind of thing that you toss off in a short little page and a half motion. And you don't do it with timelines as short as what's contemplated in this motion. This would, to me, if you're going to start like redefining what the city of Regina should and shouldn't be doing, that's at least a year-long process, if not longer, and would involve many voices. And a lot of the people because everybody who's going to be affected by having their programs cut should be involved in this. Okay, so we've got that. Oh, we also have, I should really be focusing. I guess I got to wrap this up because it's a busy day for me. I'm doing this. Affordable lands housing policy amendments, that's going to be passing. That went through an executive committee really quick and with big thumbs up from everybody. They're going to acquire some land on Saskatchewan Drive to expand Saskatchewan Drive. It looks like they're going to be expropriating that land, so that has to get ratified at this meeting. I've never seen this before. I've never seen the city expropriate land before, so I'm totally excited to watch this go down. I think the bulk of the work, though, is decided at executive committee on Wednesday. I think it might actually be even on the consent agenda. I'm not sure because I'm not looking. There's like a page in the agenda which has everything in blue, and then there's like what I'm looking at, which is the actual report cover pages, which doesn't tell you if it's on the consent agenda or not. Then there's a real Brandt proposal. Oh, and then last off, there's a notice of motion from Councillor Fro. Does he give it a name? Regina City Council composition. So this will not be debated on Wednesday. This will just be read into the record and to give you time to read it over and decide if it's important enough for you to show up at at council to talk about it. Okay. Directed Min to procure an independent review to be funded through the general fund reserve. Oh, the grumpy Facebook grandpas are going to love that. To determine the appropriate nature of the role of council. To direct the review to include consultation comprised of community leaders and other related experts. Direct the review to include the following analysis recommendations and try to be as cost neutral as possible. Good luck. Whether council should be a full-time service role. What the appropriate number of municipal wards should be. The broader supports provided to council, including what ongoing supports may be available, including but not limited to administrative, research, communication, and stakeholder engagement. D, consider whether the current governance and staffing support structure allows City Council to operate effectively. And then item 4, directed Min to report back to council by Q2 of 2027. Holy crikeys. Okay. I don't object to this. I've argued for a long time. I'm old, remember, that Regina City Councilors should be a full-time position. And if they become a full-time position, we should probably have fewer rewards. But I'm not sure about that. So yeah, I would look forward to the report that comes out of this. I doubt administration can get it done by Q2 of 2027. This seems big to me, but I don't know. I'm also lazy. I'd take my time with something like this. Yeah. All right. So that's what's coming up on Wednesday. But yeah, like I say, I think that report that's amending the friggin' Real and Brandt deal, I think that is worthy of more conversation. And I don't think it should have been dealt with in private session. That certainly shouldn't have been our only chance. Well, our only chance. Our elected representatives got to look at this. They got to get like legal advice from the city solicitor about whether this was a good deal or not. They were able to get advice from administration about whether this was a good deal or not. They were able to get the anti-mimetic properties dispelled from this report for them. We have not. That's coming on Wednesday, when presumably council will be deciding the fate of the Mosaic Stadium, Affinity Plex, Cooperator Center, and Confederation Park on our behalves, unless they refer this back, which is kind of what I hope will happen. Just to, God, could we please, like, at least can we save stuff like this for September? It's still friggin' August. Oh yeah, I've been focusing my attention. I swear it's almost been an hour of this. I swear I'm gonna wrap this up soon. I've been focusing my attention on the Affinity Plex and Cooperative Center because that's all I give a fig about. If we could, I've said this 1,000 times, if we could sell Mosaic Stadium for $1 even to Brandt, and Brandt would take over Mosaic Stadium and assume all of its debt, I'd be okay with that. It's a white elephant around our necks. A white elephant around our necks. Or the albatross in the room, as it were. Yeah, okay, so Scott Sask says, "Hey, man, there's gotta be something else going on at council on Wednesday." I just went through everything that's going on at council on Wednesday. Scott, get off my back. How are you doing? Big fan. Mike Dansock, I love this guy. Why don't you speak? You know more about this than anybody. Smells like extortion to me, though. Like I just said, I don't know more than anybody. That's why I'm making this video today, because I don't know what's going on in this report, and I have questions and I want answers. And unlike all y'all, for some reason they let me do scrums. So at the end of this meeting, if all my questions don't get answered, I could, in theory, pedal over to the city council before everything is done and bring out my Zoom H2 voice recorder and interview the mayor and ask him my questions, or even the city manager. So yeah, I have access to that. You don't. Hey, I've got a teenager who just got up. Scott, solid waste management, discretionary personally. I burn all my garbage and tires in a pit in my backyard. You are a smart man. Burn it all, like in the olden times when people would like pile up their yard waste in their yard and set it on fire. The good old days. All right. I've taken up enough of your day. I'm sorry this went on so long. Thanks for listening to me. My family thanks you too, because now they don't have to listen to me talk about this. He probably doesn't want to be on screen. All right. I'm ending the stream now. Ciao.